Hi, this is Kathy Lundborg with this week's Messages from the Trees. And this week's message is a simple yet complicated one in my opinion. The one word is boundaries, having healthy internal boundaries. And the picture or the visual that came with it was a tree trunk, looking at the tree bark. And at first, I thought, is that it? Then it really hit me what that means. And for a tree, the bark is its skin. And if the bark ever cracks on a tree, what happens is fungus goes into that bark and it can eventually kill a tree. It basically rots it from the inside. It's an infestation that happens if the bark of the tree is cracked. So having that healthy boundary on a tree is actually critical to its survival. When you think about it in human terms, when we take on other people's pain, other people's problems, it's letting in that metaphorical fungus into our being. And we sacrifice our own well-being in the name of trying to help the other person. And part of the image that came to me with this is you'll never see a tree split open its bark to try to spit sap at another tree to help it. That just seems ridiculous when you think about it in tree terms. But in a way, in human terms, when we're taking on somebody else's problems, it is almost that same thing. We're trying to give that other person our life force, our blood, bleed ourselves out in the name of helping them. And in essence, we don't have the ability to do so. And it's sacrificing ourselves. So with trees, it's not that trees don't care about each other. They really care about each other. They take care of each other. But it's through the root zone and through the leaves and the needles. And through the root zone, what they do in a community of trees is those that have or those that have the excess, the surplus of nutrients, send it to the others that don't have as much through the root system. And so in human terms, that's the soul world. It's serving each other through our souls. And with a tree, through the leaves and the needles, the way they help each other is they have warning systems. When they sense an infestation of bugs or, I can't think of another example, they send out chemical emitters through the air for the others to read, to be warned. And so, to me, the analogy in human terms is that's our spiritual realm, our intuition, when we send somebody love and light. We care about them, we want them to be well, so we send them love and light. We don't split ourselves open, exposing ourselves to an infestation and weakening ourselves. We send them love and light, serving through our souls, through our pure essence, sending nutrients. I don't have all the answers on this. I don't pretend to. I think it's an interesting study of what the trees can really show us about, really, it's codependency and having healthy boundaries. I'm going to take some shots of some trees that I see out here that have some pretty big splits in their bark. And one way that trees get that is through the freeze-thaw cycle in the spring. And if you think about freeze and thaw in human terms, that can be our emotional roller coasters. That can happen too with poor boundaries. We're letting too much in. That really has nothing to do with us, ourselves as individuals, but we let it in and it takes us on this emotional roller coaster and it can really damage us. And the other way that trees can get these big splits in their bark is when they dry out. And then the wind comes along and they're really brittle and dry, so they crack. And to me, the human analogy of this is, trees drying out because it's a lack of water. Water is a feminine element. It represents feminine energy. And so in human terms, when we're imbalanced in our masculine and feminine energies, we let that feminine energy dry out. Again, we can be susceptible. Lack of boundaries. We have to care for ourselves first. We have to. If we don't, it's very common. not to, especially in nurturing people. And I will say, it's in our culture, it's primarily women. We put others first before our own well-being. But the trees can show us that we're not serving ourselves or anybody else when we do that. I think the trees have a lot to tell us. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I'm sure there's going to be more on this because I personally find this fascinating. It's what I'm working on in my own life. In certain areas of my life, I think I have healthy boundaries. But when it comes to the people closest to me, I have crappy boundaries. That sometimes just non-existent. And I need to learn to establish those boundaries. And to be honest with you, it's not straightforward to me how to do that. And I think the trees are a good teacher in learning to do that. So I'd love it if you share your thoughts, your knowledge, your wisdom on this subject. So I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.